What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. First and foremost, before we get started, it's been a minute. I know it's been a little minute. I haven't posted, I think, for a couple weeks. I don't think I've posted since before the Super Bowl, which stuff came up. Obviously, some stuff has happened, Super Bowl, other things, I've, been dealing with. But, back here, man, to, really talk about as the off season starts to heat up. I would honestly probably say to this point, things have been pretty slow, at least for the Atlanta Falcons, but they're getting ready to heat up pretty damn soon. So, yeah, man. Obviously, though, the biggest, hottest topic now for not just weeks, months, has been what should the Atlanta Falcons do at quarterback? When we all saw that it clearly was not going to work out, with the previous situation. And, even before we let go of Arthur Smith, and now that we have let go of Arthur Smith and we've brought in Raheem Morris as head coach, we have brought in a new offensive staff that does consist of Zach Robinson at offensive coordinator. A very hot topic has popped up in really the last few days, which is Justin Fields. And obviously the suggestion that the Atlanta Falcons should pull the trigger and be the team to trade for Justin Fields from the Chicago Bears, who it looks like at this point are all but, officially zeroed in on Caleb Williams to be the number one overall pick. So that obviously now creates a dynamic where Justin Fields is on the trade block and is, one of the hotter commodities, of the, quarterbacks that are going to be available this offseason. Those other quarterbacks, we will also, I will also cover. I'm not just doing this for Justin Fields. I'm going to do this, for other quarterbacks. So I'm going to do this for Kirk Cousins. I'm going to do this for Russell Wilson. I might even do this for another quarterback or two. But really, those are the main three. And today, talking about Justin Fields. So I really feel like is the hottest topic, to talk about when talking about, trading, signing whatever, a quarterback this offseason, that is already playing in the NFL and has played in the NFL. So without further ado, man, let's get right into it. Looking at Justin Fields' resume thus far, he's a current starting quarterback of the Chicago Bears. He has been now that this was his third season. He just wrapped up. One of the biggest things, though, maybe the biggest connection Justin Fields obviously has to the Atlanta Falcons is the fact that this is his hometown team. Justin Fields is a native of Kennesaw, Georgia. He went to high school up at Harrison High School in Kennesaw. And, man, he was a very hot commodity in the state of Georgia. He actually first enrolled at the University of Georgia to play quarterback before they went with Jake Fromm, and he decided, he was going to take his talents up to Ohio State. And the rest was history up at Ohio State before he would land in Chicago. So that is, let me go ahead and say, that is the number one big connection that there is with Justin Fields, is the fact that Justin Fields is the hometown kid. He is, the hero. He is seen as the hometown kid who everyone wants to come back in. And listen, I can absolutely understand that. I have nothing against that. Matter of fact, to me, that's positive, if anything. But that doesn't tell the entire story. That doesn't tell the entire story with any of these quarterbacks. He was the 11th overall pick in the first round of the 2021 NFL Draft. And so far in his career, He has a 60.3% completion percentage throughout his career thus far, 6,674 passing yards with a 4-3 touchdown to interception ratio. And he has compiled 2,220 rushing yards, 14 rushing touchdowns in his career. Obviously, Justin Fields is known for his athleticism, is known for his ability to escape the pocket, which is a lot of what, does give him his gift, is a lot of what does make him special. Now, I'm going to start off with the pros here of if we were to land Justin Fields. And one of the things is he is only 24 years old, entering his fourth season. He will be 25 this season. So he is still relatively on the young side of a quarterback. The years that you really look at and you say is prime for a quarterback when you really want him to be hitting his stride. And he would bring an extraordinary amount of talent, with the quarterback position and how he plays the game. And it's something that the Falcons have not simply seen since Michael Vick, and that's absolutely no disrespect to Matty Ice. Matty Ice is one of the greatest Falcons of all time, but, he was obviously not known to be, a running quarterback, to be that electrifying player, which is why I honestly think, is part of why a lot of a certain portion of the fan base doesn't want to give Matt Ryan the flowers that he has deserved regardless. But that's for a different day. But there is no denying that he would be the most talented quarterback, at least in that aspect, the Falcons have had since Michael Vick. He has overall good arm strength, so he can sling it downfield. He can get it to your Drake London deep downfield. And we saw what he was able to do with DJ Moore last year in Chicago. I really feel like if you were to bring Justin Fields here, he can do a lot of that with Drake London here, as Drake London really looks to take that next step in his third year. Same with Kyle Pitts. Hopefully, you finally hope coming back from injury, Kyle Pitts, can finally return to that form we saw him in his rookie year, where you saw those flashes. You could see that, with Justin Fields. Cole Kmet in Chicago, he has shown a substantial amount of growth, and a lot of that is with Justin Fields as his quarterback. Obviously, the running game is still there as well with Bijan Robinson, with Tyler Algier, a two-headed backfield. So when you really look at that, there is, a lot that can accommodate Justin Fields' running ability with those two in the backfield. And another thing, it would pair him up with offensive coordinator Zach Robinson, who has been gifted throughout his work that he has done, not necessarily only at the Rams, but at PFF, and how he has an eye for the quarterback, how he evaluates quarterbacks, and, how he really has been able, to evaluate these quarterbacks. Now, one thing that is interesting to note about Zach Robinson is, at least at a major level, we haven't seen him deal, with a project quarterback. And let's face it, Justin Fields is still a project in many aspects. So I'm going to go ahead and point that out right now. So it's not necessarily a given with Justin Fields, or if we decide to take another option, that Zach Robinson is just this quarterback whisperer. But I think you can feel pretty good about it because of the work that he's done at PFF. He understands, analytics. I mean, the NFL is more and more of an analytics-driven league today. So I personally feel like Zach Robinson looks at those analytics and is going to be able to identify where he thinks Justin Fields should be as a quarterback. And another thing, for a lot of the cons with Justin Fields that we're going to get into in a minute, it's important to note that the Bears' offensive management might have been the worst in the NFL these past few years. So overall, I think you have to consider that, a big chunk of the reason as to why we saw some of Justin Fields' struggles. Now, how much of that, is just all on the coaching staff, Chicago has had, we don't necessarily know, because Justin Fields came in and the very next year, Matt Nagy was out. Comes in Matt Eberflus with Luke Getsy as offensive coordinator. And yeah, I mean, that is a disastrous situation. That might honestly even have been worse than what the Falcons previously had last year with how their offense was constructed as far as the staff went. So, yeah, I mean, you have to look at that and you have to say that when you are criticizing Justin Fields, you have to keep that into account. However, getting into the negatives, the cons of Justin Fields, the 11-29 record that he has had as a starting quarterback is very much concerning, regardless of what the situation might be in Chicago. It is concerning. Now, granted, I do think you point out, and you also have to consider that you saw in the second half of last season, the season that just passed, Justin Fields showed growth as a quarterback. He finally showed the ability to play better. And you saw that was a lot of the reason the Bears were more competitive in games. They even won games. The Bears finished the year, I want to say, with a 7-10 record, same as the Falcons. But they got off to an 0-4 start or something like that. And everyone was Justin Fields pretty much saved Matt Eberflus's job, in a sense of terms, and how he played those last few games in that second half of the season. However, still an 11-29 record overall, and you're considering it's going to be a change to a new team, that is a very big concern. The other big concern is Fields has an extensive injury history in his 3 years in Chicago. And look, your best ability is your availability, especially at the quarterback position. You cannot stress it enough. We saw what we just went through. You can't stress enough. We need a quarterback that's going to be out there every single game. It's going to, and listen, quarterback, eventually, an injury is going to pop up. Yes, everyone's going to miss a game. Matt Ryan only missed 3 games in his entire career at quarterback. So that is a consistency you're looking at. And it's a consistency that's going to be very hard to reach. But still, you want your quarterback out there as much as absolutely possible. And you don't want a quarterback that is very much injury prone. And Justin Fields has shown that injuries are a big concern. And when you're playing the style of football Justin Fields likes to play, where, and let's face it, this is a con I really didn't list. Justin Fields' talents are obviously, well documented. And they're a lot of the reason he is the quarterback he is today, and how, even after the 3 years in Chicago, that for the most part, were, very much on the downside, he is still thought of highly. However, that goes into one of the cons I'm going to get into in a second, that Justin Fields really doesn't have the proper pocket awareness, the proper mindset. I think you saw it with Lamar Jackson early in his career, where Lamar, he was just looking for the slight lane to open, and then he goes off. And eventually, it caught up to Lamar. And those injuries piled up. And it costed the Ravens. I honestly think it's a lot of the part last offseason, the Ravens at some point did show a hesitancy to not just throw Lamar whatever he wanted, and they played a little bit of hardball. And I think as a result of that, you saw Lamar change a little bit of that style, and that's why you saw him you saw him play in all the games last year. And so ultimately, Justin Fields, you're going to, I believe, have to see that similar style of change. The turnovers, that's another very concerning thing. Justin Fields, there's a little bit of a fumble problem there. And look, 30 interceptions over a course of 3 years. We just saw that, from Desmond Ridder. And so ultimately, that's why I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, I can absolutely understand the argument. Obviously, Justin Fields is better than Desmond Ridder. He is a better option. Make no mistake about it. But how much better of an option is he? I don't necessarily know. He's obviously a better athlete, but the turnovers are still there, just like they were with Ridder. And those turnovers are ultimately one of the big things that cost the Falcons in 2023. And it simply cannot happen. And going into, talking about pocket presence, some questions have been raised about his ability to, process, to be a quarterback, to go through his reads, Now, in Chicago, that's why I say it was not good offensive management. He did not have proper guidance, from the coaches in Chicago, but also still that is something that eventually you have to pick up, as a quarterback. And that's where I go back to Lamar Jackson point, where you obviously saw one of the big reasons the Ravens return to that dominant form this year was Lamar, at the end of the day, he learned how to actually, to an extent, go through his progressions, and make his reads. And that all really ties into the fact that, listen, Justin Fields will be paired with a very, very coveted offensive coordinator. Zach Robinson was going to get an offensive coordinator job this offseason. I'm very glad he got it here. But you can only take certain quarterbacks out of their comfort zone so much, and with Justin Fields, it's going to be very unknown as to how he responds to being taken out of that comfort zone, of wanting to just run, looking for that lane and then going off versus having to make those progressions, having to go through that read. One of the big things Zach Robinson said, we want a quarterback that can go through progressions. And Justin Fields has not been proven to be the quarterback that goes through progressions. Now, granted, you have to look at the situation around him in Chicago and really the guidance. And I'm already willing to tell you, if Justin Fields is to come to Atlanta, Zach Robinson, will be the best offensive coordinator he has worked with in his NFL career. However, it's still, what is Justin Fields' comfort zone? Can he really come out of that? Can he be the veteran and adapt, as all quarterbacks have to at some point in their NFL career? And I think Justin Fields has the ability to do that. But still, these are unknowns. These are big questions. This is about to lead me into what could a potential trade look like, and then where do you go? But this is a very big gamble the Falcons would be taking, at this quarterback position. The Falcons have to get the quarterback position this offseason right. It cannot just be a 1 year and we're talking about Shedeur Sanders next offseason. That cannot be the case. We have to get someone in here, be it a veteran that can honestly be here, about at the very least 2 years. I prefer, about 3 years. I want someone here for the long term. I want someone that can be here an extensive amount of years, and that's why I do say I do want a younger quarterback coming in here. I think that's why they brought Zach. I think that's part of the reason, in my opinion at least, why they brought Zach Robinson in here on one hand. Because I do think they want to develop a young quarterback. That could be Justin Fields, as he still is relatively young, or that could be you look at another route. That is the draft. We'll talk about that another day. However, getting into the trade details, what could a potential Justin Fields to the Atlanta Falcons trade look like? Well, I'm going to go ahead and say this. I feel like Justin Fields, there's obviously a lot of uncertainty. He's very unproven, so I feel like the conditions of the trade, and how big the compensation could be for what Chicago gets regardless is going to vary. I'm going to go ahead and say a trade that I think, it is fair ultimately, that I would say is I think the Falcons get Justin Fields, and on top of that, we'll get a 2025 fourth-round pick from the Bears. In return, the Bears will get our third-round pick this year. That is guaranteed. They will get the 74th pick in the NFL draft. That's not the Jacksonville pick. That's our third-round pick. And the big one, a 2025 conditional third-round pick. It can turn into a second if Fields plays 60% or more of the snaps. And it can turn into a first-round pick if Fields leads the Falcons to the playoffs in 2024 and or signs a long-term contract extension with the Falcons. And then just, throw in a 2026 sixth-round pick, as a little sweetener on top of it. So that's where I say this is obviously a very big moment for everyone. This quarterback position, regardless, it's big for Terry Fontenot. It's big for Raheem Morris. It's big for Zach Robinson. This is going to Terry Fontenot, took a lot of, he got a big pass for how Desmond Ridder worked out, and to be honest, I mean, I think, you can only blame so much of that on Terry because at the end of the day, Ridder was a third-round pick. And the decision to roll with him, I think obviously he played a part in that. Arthur Smith took a lot of the blunt for that. And, that is why he is no longer here. This is going to be Terry's signature move as the Atlanta Falcons general manager. How he addresses this quarterback situation this offseason, how he decides to move, because this is it. This is playoff or bust for the Falcons. Raheem Morris is not getting the luxury Arthur Smith got coming in here or most other coaches get. I personally, if you ask me, I think Raheem Morris gets probably 2 years at most before there are serious questions raised by Arthur Blank. This team has to be in the playoffs really this year. There's no excuse for it. This team has to be back in the playoffs. And are they going to take that big gamble on Justin Fields, to say, should the Falcons actually pull the trigger on a trade for Justin Fields? Listen, it is a huge gamble. And there are other moves the Falcons could take that would be huge gambles. I think obviously, the safest move would be going and picking up a veteran, and we'll talk more about that, who that could potentially be. I think a lot of people know, but regardless, this is going to be a very big move. And is it a gamble that, the Falcons are going to take, that front office will take in a year where it's pretty much playoffs or bust? I just don't know. As far as, how I feel on a Justin Fields trade, I feel very 50-50 about it. I love the potential of it, but there is a big downside of it. I think with everything the Falcons front office has talked about, I would probably, honestly, in the logic already that they have said, I would maybe say they are leaning more towards against this. However, I don't know. They could very well like the potential of Justin Fields because one of the things Raheem Morris said, he wants to see Arthur Blank and he wants to see the Atlanta Falcons win a Super Bowl. And I'm not even going to go there, but I'm just saying in general, that this doesn't even, this can apply to Justin Fields, but this just applies in general. You have to take a big swing. You have to make a big trade up. You have to throw a lot of money. You look at, what the Chiefs did and how they traded for Patrick Mahomes. They traded all the way up into the top 10, down from like 27. The Rams, they sold their soul to the devil in terms of money and salary cap hell to get a Super Bowl. You have to make the big gamble, the big move. And it's not just Justin Fields. It's regardless, however it comes. And every single quarterback out there this offseason, via in the draft, free agency, could be available via trade. There is an aspect of a gamble there with all of them. But with that being said, obviously, I've been going on for a long time about this. I will definitely, we're going to be talking a whole lot more about this quarterback situation and other, aspects of free agency too. It's not just quarterbacks. I plan on putting out a video, evaluating just different, potential free agents, corners, edge rushers, wide receivers, you name it. But with that being said, and also mock drafts will definitely ramp up. The combine's coming up soon. So definitely that after that, we're going to get a better picture on what the draft looks like. With that being said, if you stuck through me throughout the entire video, appreciate it. Y'all know what to do. Hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the post notification bell. See you guys in the next one.